Previously on One Piece, the Straw Hats were caught up in a massive storm nearing an icy winter island. While trying to save Jewelry Bonnie, who was already caught up in the storm, Chopper and Luffy found themselves in open water, needing to be rescued by Jinbei. Meanwhile, the rest of the Straw Hats had to contend with a giant mechanical shark. And while Jinbei got Luffy, Chopper, and Bonnie to safety, the Straw Hats were at the shark's mercy, only to be saved by a young girl in a giant mech suit, calling herself Dr. Vegapunk. The same Dr. Vegapunk that Jewelry Bonnie tells Luffy that she's here to see, potentially, in the hope of restoring what happened to Bartholomew Kuma. Now the question remains, as Vegapunk is a employee of the world government, and the Straw Hats are pirate, what kind of dangers will she beset upon our hero? And what is Bonnie after ultimately? Is it simply to restore Kuma, or is it something more? Join me as I find out, won't you? Alright, One Piece, Chapter 1062, Adventure in the Land of Science! And I actually have to take an L for this, because the cover page is German 66's an Immersionless Excursion Volume 20. Meanwhile, in Chocolate Town, Cacao Island, it's been completely frozen over. We had originally seen a male and female presence upon the island, and I assumed that there was Reiju and Ichiji, and Oda was just kind of masking things by not making it look like they had their raid suit shoes on. I mean, they could put their raid suits on at any time, so I didn't think much of it, but no. It looks as though, potentially, Aokiji came a-knocking. But why? What for? What business could he possibly have with the Big Mom pirate? And this cover page is heating up, even though it's so chilly. Alright, we pick up with Dr. Vegapunk's giant mech holding up the Thousand Sunny. The Straw Hats cry out, "What? Vegapunk? You mean the Vegapunk?" And Vegapunk tells him, "Oh, put a sock in it." But Frankie is blown away. He says, "Vegapunk, hey, I really respect your work. I spent 2 years at your lab in your hometown, Baltimore. I got so many things to show off to you." And Usopp calls out, "A giant robot of dreams. How many dozens of times bigger than the General Frankie is it? I wish Luffy and Chopper could see this." And Usopp's just blown away. And Sanji, he's just fawning over Vegapunk. "Oh, babe! Vegapunk's a total babe!" And Vegapunk is unimpressed with the Straw Hat. But Robin, at the ready for action, says the million-dollar question. "Wait, I've never heard that Vegapunk was a woman, and her appearance doesn't add up, based on Vegapunk's long history of activity." And Vegapunk calls out, "Of course it doesn't. I'm obviously not the Stella." Stella? That's the main body. Oh, okay. So she's an android? Robot? Clone? ... I am Vegapunk 02. And she opens up her jacket to show off. "Yeah, show the titties." Vegapunk Lilith, the evil. Okay, Vegapunk Lilith. So he's one of those guys who is so busy he divided himself up. But why would she call herself the evil? And my research budget is constantly stretched to the seams. So hand over your valuables. After that, I'm done with you. So that would explain why she's called the evil. Nami calls out, "What are you talking about? On this frigid sea, if you're gonna scoop us up out of the water, at least see it through and save us." But Lilith gets pissed and says, "I did not save you. These waters are normally unreachable by ship. These things ensure they all get sunk." Sea Kings? You see creatures approaching from underneath Vegapunk's mech. Yeah, Sea King, the sea beast weapon. And they're all outfitted with mechanical gear just like the shark from before. The Straw Hats call out, "Ah! Monsters! Ah, real monsters!" And Frankie, he's still geeking out saying, "Sea beast weapons? They're incredible!" But Usopp, yeah, his fanboying has kind of reached its max, and his fear is set in as he says, "This time the fear's winning out." Yeah, just like I thought. Zoro looks around and observes all of the ferocious beasts surrounding them. Brook and Nami start freaking out. But then Lilith receives a communication. Ring ring. "Lilith, what do you think you're doing? Plundering again? Have you no scientist pride?" And Lilith says, "Shut up, Shaka. You do-gooder. Will pride increase our budget? Is that another part of Vegapunk?" Shaka says, First of all, they're not going to surrender. That's the crew of Straw Hat, the one who just got made Emperor of the Sea. Ooh, okay. Well, they got communication quick, but once you see the ship, it's pretty obvious. Lilith just starts giggling. I know, right? They must be laden with treasure. Oh, so she knew outright that they were the Straw Hat. Shaka says, in that case, you've made a terrible mistake. Lilith is shocked. Mistake? They're thoroughly surrounded. They have no escape. Shaka informs Lilith, you've underestimated them. Look at the swordsmen on board. Lilith looks down in shock as Zoro readies his sword. Shaka informs Lilith, that's pirate hunter Zoro, worth a bounty of 1.111 billion berries. The reason he's calmly hanging back is because he knows he can slaughter you in an instant from that range. Damn! The same goes for Demon Child behind him, Nico Robin. So this Shaka person is impressive. Perfectly assessed. It's just like, yeah, Sanji, he's fawning over you. Usopp's scared. Nami, Brook are scared. Frankie is fanboying. Zoro and Robin are ready to kill. They are the Straw Hats ready to kill at the drop of a hat. Lilith questions, but what would they do about all the sea beast weapons around them? Shaka informs Lilith, the mighty always determine the first foe they should strike down. You ought to think harder, as Frankie and Sanji are still just fanboying and loving everything they're seeing. Lilith realizes, so the talkative jokers are just a distraction? I didn't pay close enough attention. Wow, I love that. We never get stuff like that usually. And Zoro says in a very determined voice, hey Vegapunk, we've got some demand, and you're going to listen. Got that? Much to Lilith's shock. But Shaka says, that's fine. Bring them here. I happen to have an interest in that crew. And this is Punk 01, Dr. Vegapunk, Shaka the Good. So that why see, this actually explains the conflicting nature of some of the things that Vegapunk does. Turning Kuma into a merciless android, but at the same time still allowing him to protect the Straw Hat ship, giving him just enough free will. Some things Vegapunk does are unspeakably evil. Some things he does are oddly helpful, especially towards the Straw Hat. By having different aspects of Vegapunk acting on their own, that explains a lot. That is a perfect way of getting around any form of inconsistencies you have towards the character. Different aspect. Is it almost maybe like the 7 deadly sins? The evil and the good. I mean, those aren't really like sins or anything like that. So is it maybe like each way that Vegapunk split themselves up is kind of a conflicting one? One is the good, 2 is the evil. And maybe it goes back and forth like that for each one. I wonder how many there are. We pick up with Luffy's team talking with Bonnie. Luffy questions her. You said you've been here before? Bonnie says, when I was a kid, it was a normal lab back then. With Bonnie's ability, there's no telling how long back then was. Luffy questions, what did you come back for? Bonnie says, depending on his answer, Vegapunk will have to die for his crimes. Luffy freaks out, whoa. Oh, Bonnie says it. Vegapunk turned my father into a cyborg, and so Kuma is her father. It was actually noted in one of, I think it was either the initial sketch for Bonnie or one for after the time skip. People had mentioned that one of her objectives was to have Vegapunk turn her father back to normal. So we kind of got that answer indirectly to a certain degree, which I kind of don't like. Because before all of this, I kept wondering, what is Bonnie's association to Kuma? And then people were just like, oh, no, it literally says here, turn her father back to normal. I'm like, aw, kind of ruined the mystery for me. Oh, well. Yeah, Bonnie says, Vegapunk turned my father into a cyborg again, but Luffy interrupts, what? That's so cool, though. But Bonnie starts tearing up, saying, at this point, he's lost his sense of humanity. He doesn't even know who he is anymore. He's been turned into a pure, unthinking living weapon. Jinbei's face, the way he says it, that's a terrible thing to suffer, but he has a reaction like he realized who Bonnie's father is. Or maybe he's just appalled at the action. Bonnie says, yes, Vegapunk must pay the price. And Luffy says, sorry about that, Boggy. And then she says, Bonnie. Luffy's like, oh, Bonnie, got it. I actually wonder if he'll actually end up remembering her name to any extent. Just probably give her a nickname. Maybe call her like Bon Bon or something. Whoa, cool. What the heck? It's a friggin' sci-fi land. Luffy, Jinbei, Bonnie, and Chopper make their way up through, I guess, the sewers, arriving in the heart of the city. As Jinbei helps Bonnie out, Luffy and Chopper start running around. Chopper says, we're on the surface again. And Luffy, he's just starstruck, saying, let's go and find some food. Whoa! Bonnie thinks to herself, though, oh right, I met Sabo and Mary Joa. I don't need to bring that up now. Every time we get so close. So it's public knowledge that Sabo is, like, related to Luffy in some specific manner. And then you see it, the land of Egghead, the land of science. One of those buildings look like a gamepad. And you have Vega and Vegapunk written all over the place. You have SSG on something in the sky. One of the instances where the anime will help clarify some of the stuff we're seeing. Luffy calls out, whoa, what is this place? A giant robot and a space monster? Yeah, they're just fighting in the background. Everything's flying. Jinbei questions, what in the world? I know that's right. Luffy says, I'm gonna go on a ride. As Bonnie gets mad and says, hey, we're intruders, remember? But Chopper just says, be careful, Luffy. As Luffy stretches out and does a gum-gum rocket, launching himself towards the giant monster who's currently firing a laser blast. And then as Luffy approaches, the monster notices him and just eats him. Bonnie and Chopper freak out. Luffy got eaten. Oh, what? What? Luffy passes through the monster, says, huh? And then he hits a building, and then he hits the ground. Luffy, Chopper, and Bonnie, Chopper, and Jinbei go rushing over to Luffy. And Chopper says, hey, are you okay? Luffy says, what the, huh? I swear I got swallowed. Is it holograms? But then Bonnie notices something, saying, look, a giant parfait! Cookies, fruit, and heaps of whipped cream. Is it another illusion? But, of course, Luffy, Bonnie, and Chopper go rushing towards it, as Luffy says, let's eat! But Jinbei, the everly cautious one, says, now hold on just a minute. No one's just going to leave out delicious treats for you. It's clearly some kind of trap. And they pass right through it. But they're all now collectively pissed. Jinbei's just like, I love Jinbei being the straight man in this situation. But Luffy's angry, saying, what? You passed right through it. Bonnie says, it's there, but I can't grab it. And Chopper tries to bite into it, saying, this just makes me hungrier. And Luffy, he's on his knees. And he says, did we die at some point? Like, dang. Like a fate worse than death for Luffy is just like, is this hell? But Jinbei says, no, we're not ghosts. This parfait is a hologram, I think. I've never seen one in person. Jinbei, of course the voice of reason, love it. But Luffy is boiling over with rage, saying, what? Someone's gotta pay! And Bonnie says, it's a three-dimensional image made with light. We're talking about something out of a comic strip or a fantasy world. And Luffy questions an image? Whoa, that is a big child. There's a big child just walking up to them. Okay, Luffy looks up at the monster and robot fighting and says, the space monster, that's why I slipped through it. Jinbei says, the giant robot is probably the same. No one could actually make such a thing. Chopper says, hey, what's this? There's a picture of food and buns on it. Bonnie says, don't bother. Everything here is a lie. I love it. But Jinbei says, I just noticed something. The sea was cold here and yet. But then a very large girl walks up to them and says, this is a tropical place, although it is indeed a winter island. Thanks to the island AC I created. Oh, this is another Vegapunk. Yeah. She has punk. Something also written on her. We can control the temperature of the island itself. Okay, just like Vegapunk tried to do. So he has been able to control weather. But Luffy gets pissy and I guess tries to pick a fight, saying that thing's as big as Kaido. He says, you're one of those hollows too, right? He's thinking of Perona's ability. And then he goes to punch her. He just punches the kid right in the stomach. And he's like, huh? Then Vegapunk just decks him in the face, saying, eat this, jerk! Oh man, that looked like it really hurt Luffy too, though. Are they able to use hockey? Is that straight up? Or maybe they're infused with Sea Prism Stone. Huh. And Luffy is knocked back saying sorry. But he hits the machine Chopper was talking about before, and then it just produces a burger right there and then. Vega Cola. Oh god, that looks good. And Bonnie picks up the food and says, "It popped out a hamburger meal with a drink and fries. Who made these?" And she says, "You can touch them." Chopper and Luffy says, "They're real?" And they just start chowing down. It's so good. Press the next button. And then they just start pressing buttons. Steak, omelet rice, fried pork cutlet, cotton candy cake, ramen, fried chicken, hot dog. Vegapunk says, "I'm glad you like my automated cooking machine. Pizza, pasta." Vegapunk says, as long as there's enough food material, it can provide 500 different meals to the user, each in under a minute. The whip up leftovers mode is the best part, but only if you make it exactly to the plans. There aren't enough technicians to mass produce them, though. That tends to be the problem. Producing one great invention, not the hardest thing in the world. I mean, once you produce one, but sometimes when you have a great invention, getting materials to produce more of them and people who can actually build it or the assembly line that can put it together, that can be a little tough. And Vegapunk says, "It makes me so mad," and she just rockets up like friggin' Astro Boy and decks the hologram in the face? The hologram of the monster. Wait, that doesn't make sense. Did it turn hard light all of a sudden? Vegapunk says same thing with the island AC. Controlling the temps means being able to sense the life patterns of every little living thing on the island. What? Spend a little more money and we could control the weather. The world doesn't have enough tech or funding. So is this like the anger of Vegapunk? But it's more of a righteous anger almost. Bonnie's like, "It punched the hologram." But Luffy and Chopper are still eating Waffles fried shrimp. Vegapunk then says, "That's right, with these light pressure gloves, you can do more than just observe the light." And then a hologram girl appears and Vegapunk high fives her. Oh, that's kind of cool. That's so cute. Hi, phew. Just to make a point. The moment people can touch something, they'll believe that it's real. It's real matter. And Luffy, still stuffing his face, says, "Huh? You mean that lady's not real?" Vegapunk says, "Whether it's real or not, is for you to decide. If you ask me, those words are a relic of a bygone age." And Vegapunk is just going off. It's just like, I waited this long to appear. I'm just gonna start speaking my mind, motherfucker. Even Jinbei's eating. They're just chowing down. And Jinbei asks the $1,000,000 question, "So, who are you then?" And Vegapunk responds, "Me? I'm nothing but a humble genius scientist for hire. Dr. Vegapunk. Dr. Vegapunk Atlas." So, like, strength. So is, like, there a weak version of Dr. Vegapunk then? It's almost like all of Vegapunk's desires laid bare. His desire for good, his desire for evil, and his desire to strengthen the things around him. But all of them have a sense of pride in their work. Of course, Bonnie is immediately pissed, but she doesn't say anything, just thinking, "No way, what's this liar talking about?" And Luffy and Chopper with their faces still stuff. Luffy says, "You're Vegapunk? I know your name. Kobe said it." Yeah, all those chapters ago. Oh, whoa, Rob Lucci, Kaku, Stussy. Meanwhile, in the New World, on a world government ship, Rob Lucci says, "Sum it up for me. What are we doing?" Kaku says, "Alright, Lucci, listen up. There's only one Vegapunk. But he's such a genius he doesn't have enough time to do everything. He's short-handed, you see. So he thought, why not make more hands? He split himself into 6 different people. So there are 7 in total. In other words, these 6 satellites are all Dr. Vegapunk together." Thank you for putting a diagram together for me. And we see there's the main Dr. Vegapunk, who is probably an old man. And then you have Punk 01, the good, Shaka, who we kind of saw a little bit. You have Punk 02, the evil, Lilith, who was the first one we met. Punk 03, the thinker, Edison. Punk 04, the wisdom, Pythagoras? Oh, so the girl we met. Punk 05, the violence, Atlas. the violence. Okay, so it didn't actually pan out the way I thought it would. You have the good and evil, but then you have the thinker, wisdom, violence, and then Punk 06, the greed. York. Honestly, going off of the way that Lilith was acting, I would have thought she would be the greed. And Lucci is just like, and because I don't believe in any of this nonsense, I'm the crazy one. What a hassle a so-called genius can be. I mean, it's one thing not to believe it, but once you see it, it's just like, oh, is that a Kuma Seraphim? That is a Kuma Seraphim. Lucci says, so we're supposed to return this giant brat to Egghead, then eliminate all the Vegapunks? What? Why? Why would you eliminate Vegapunk? Kaku says, and be careful with his lab. It's full of valuable things. Lucci says, they want us to eliminate the most useful man in the world. And does this have anything to do with what happened to Lelucia the other day? Stussy says, the last thing a man as keenly perceptive as you should be doing is looking for answers. And Kaku says, exactly. Don't drag us into your trouble, Lucy. Mass killers. Cypher Pole, Aegis 0. Whoa, we're gonna face off against Lucci again? What? Yo, I wasn't expecting this here. I was not expecting this to go down. But the government wants to take out Vegapunk? Why? I mean, maybe he's become a little too costly for their taste. I can kind of buy that, but I would think he has more value unless they have a reason to think that maybe Vegapunk has become something they don't want to deal with anymore. And how many members of Aegis Zero are going? Is it just the three of them, or are there others on the ship? Will we see maybe Bluno, Khalifa, Kumadori, everybody else? I'm still shocked. They want to kill off Vegapunk? That really gets me, because it's just like, why? Vegapunk has been one of the greatest assets to you guys. That though does explain the rundown, because it's like, oh, you could kill Vegapunk, but then he has all of his satellites, as it were. But I mean, there's no guarantee that he doesn't have some form of a way to back up his mind. I wonder how these satellites function, though, because they seem human, or at least some form of human. Atlas, she looks like a hybrid creature, because she has, like, cow-like ears and a tail? God, it's really gotten hard to tell what's organic or not in this. And I still can't get over the fact that Atlas managed to just deck the shit out of Luffy. Like, she just walloped him in the face. But if anybody could create a creation that could go toe-to-toe with Luffy, it would be Vegapunk. With the reputation he's had, with everything we're seeing, they're not kidding. Vegapunk is hundreds of years ahead of his time. And the aspects of, I don't know, that's just fascinating to me. These satellite, Lilith, Shaka, Atlas, they're all fascinating so far. And the fact that we have like 4 more Vegapunks, including the original, to meet with. I mean, is he going to be like in a stasis or something like that? That is so cool, though. And I wonder, because we've seen the Mihawk Seraphim, the Hancock Seraphim, and now the Kuma Seraphim. It makes me wonder how many Seraphim they made. Did they only make it from the original warlords that we know of? Or is it everyone who's ever been a warlord? Will we see a Buggy Seraphim? That would be weird. What if it was more capable than the actual Buggy? I feel like by nature of the Seraphim he would be. Maybe a Lost Seraphim? That'd be wild. Man, the Straw Hats versus Cypher Pole version 2. That could be cool, though. So much happened in this chapter. Like, the rundown. Kuma Seraphim, the government wants to eliminate Vegapunk, which feels like a massive mistake. The Straw Hats versus CP Aegis 0. We knew it was going to happen, but I didn't think it was going to happen now. We have 3 more Vegapunks to run into. These Vegapunks also seem very capable as well. Just because Lilith, it's just like, Shaka had to be like, yo, Lilith, back down, you gonna die. Maybe with all the Vegapunks assembled, they might be a mighty force in and of themselves. Bonnie's quest to restore Kuma, who is now officially confirmed as her father. I'm glad just to have that confirmation, though. But that means that Bonnie is at least fairly young. That really does confirm that Bonnie is, if nothing else, probably a little bit older than Luffy. Although, now that I think about it, with everything that's going on, how aware of Luffy is Bonnie? Because she knows her father was part of the Revolutionary Army. So she should be familiar with Sabo. She should have been familiar with Dragon. So maybe she was familiar with Luffy to a certain extent before she even saw him in Sabaody. And with as smart as Shaka is, maybe he knows that there was going to be a point where the Straw Hats might be needed to help him maybe escape the government. And just calling out, it's just like, hey, I'm the one who made sure your ship got protected. If anything else, you owe me just for that. That would be a good bit of leverage. I do love them highlighting the serious nature of Zoro and Robin. I really did love that moment with Shaka communicating to Lilith. It's just like, you're in range of Pirate Hunter Zoro. He could kill you from here. So could Robin. They could do it in an instant. And at least then, the monsters around them, they don't have the person commanding them anymore. God, that was such an awesome moment. Leave it to Oda to have us introduced to Vegapunk and not introduced to Vegapunk all within the same moment. It's just like, hey. And then the last thing, Aokiji is in Totalan. What is he up to? What is he after? Maybe the poneglyphs? That's the only thing I could think of. I'm actually excited for the next cover page now, too. Alright, that's enough. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. And until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din, and I hope to see you in the next video. Till then, bye-bye.